All right, I'm gonna try to get this out. If you hear like the voices, my voice changing throughout the videos because I'm gonna try to record after I watch not every episode, but after I watch however many episodes I can watch in a sitting because I got a family and a life and I can only watch these at night. So however many I can get in before I go to sleep, I watch. But let's do this. So I have to talk about this show as a whole, meaning I have to talk about the first three seasons from Netflix. Because I have to use that when I'm talking. I have to compare both shows because they're all the same. They're all connected. So, growing up, never paid much attention to Daredevil. I knew of the character, know of his enemies, know of his abilities, and know a little bit about him, but he's not one of my favorites. I really paid attention to him because of his connection, or that story's connection to how the Ninja Turtle story was created. So that's why I paid attention to them, to Daredevil. So when the show came out, I was like, all right, well let's watch this. I saw that POS movie with Ben Affleck in it, and that was garbage. So let's see what they're able to do now on this Netflix. This is back when I was still paying and watching Netflix regularly before I found out what kind of racist they were and heterophobic animals they were. But so I'm watching the show on Netflix, and the Daredevil television show that initially aired on Netflix, to me, is one of the greatest television shows in the history of television. As far as comic books, it is the greatest comic book show that has ever been on television. Live action, whatever television show that's been anything that's been on TV about superheroes. This is the best one out of all of them. It is. I want to say. I didn't think about this before, so give me a few seconds. One, two, three. Okay, it's a few seconds. I want to say it's up there as far as the greatest superhero media thing, like TV or film. I'm not going to say that, but it's a strong contender. It's a very strong contender. The reason it's such a strong contender is a lot of what makes the other great things, like I don't know, Captain America, Winter Soldier, and Avengers: Infinity War, Batman 1989. A lot of the great comic book movies. What puts it The reason why those are so great is because they have a big budget, like a huge budget. They can do a lot. It's just one movie or small series of movies, but they got a lot of money that they can use special effects and to make it look like a superhero thing. Netflix, they have a great budget. The budget's even bigger now, but they had a big budget back in 2014, 2015 when it first came out. But you could still tell they didn't have that kind of a budget. They were trying to do the whole Defenders thing, which means they needed to put money into this show and the other three shows, plus the Defenders show when they all came together. So they had, I'm assuming, much smaller budget. You could see it in the show. But despite not having a great budget, I mean, seriously, what other superhero media thing has been as good? The story was phenomenal. The acting was, at certain points, unparalleled. The pacing, the way they introduced characters, the way they handled and treated certain characters. I mean, Vincent D'Onofrio is not a great actor at all. He's never been a great actor. He has some memorable roles. I can't even say some. He has maybe one. Men in Black was not a memorable role. It was just a role. He's really, his biggest role that he's known for is the role in Full Metal Jacket. Other than that, he's not really known for like anything great. And if you're a fan of film and you've watched him over the years, he's not a great actor. He's a good actor. He's a good actor, but he's not great. Dude, this guy hit so many home runs as Kingpin. It was unbelievable. Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin is probably the best comic book villain portrayal that I've ever seen in anything. The way, and wasn't just Vincent D'Onofrio. Obviously, he played a great part in it. He did a great job in the role, but it wasn't just him. It was a collaboration of everyone. From the way that they paid respect to the character, the way that they used music to introduce the character, the way they introduced him, it was just done so perfectly. And we haven't seen anything as great before or since. Even Charlie Cox. Charlie Cox. The only thing I remember him from before Daredevil was it Stardust or something like that? It was like a rom-com action comedy thing.
I'd cross the wall and I'd bring you back that fallen star.
You can't cross the wall. Nobody crosses the wall.
Excuse me, have you seen a fallen star anywhere? We're in a crater. This must be where it fell.
Yeah, this is where I fell.
You're the star. You're the star? Really? Oh, wow.
Like a romance action comedy thing, which actually is a movie I love. I do love that movie, but that's the only, it's a little movie. Not everyone's seen it. It should have been bigger than when it was. It had a lot of big stars. Michelle Pfeiffer was in it. What's his name? Mark Strong was in it. Robert De Niro was in it. Claire Danes was in it. This was a big movie. It wasn't as big as it should have been. Is what I meant. But it had a lot of big cast in it. And it was a good movie. It was an entertaining movie. It was comical. It was funny. Had good romance. And it was a great little movie. And I loved that movie. But that's the only thing I saw him in. I think maybe I did see him in Boardwalk Empire before it. And he did a great job there, too. So when he came in, I remembered him from those two things. And I was like, I like this guy. He does good. But he doesn't look like Matt Murdock. Doesn't matter. He sold the character immediately. The fact that these people were not... I don't want to say smart enough, like it's revolutionary that they did this. Stunt doubles have always been a thing, but I'm glad that they chose to work using a stunt double that looked exactly like him. This stunt double, you could not tell them apart. I think there was only one instance where I could tell them apart, and that was in season 3 when Matt was in the prison. And he was in the hospital. He was in the nurse's room in the prison, and he was fighting somebody. I could tell that was somebody else. Outside of that, I could not tell. And I looked. The choreography, the way they did the choreography was magical. Magical. You got to see this guy fight, and it looked like a fight. And these were fights. They had almost a fight in almost every episode, which means they had to put in the work to get this choreography done right. They had to hire the right choreographers. They had to hire the right stunt people. They did the camera work perfectly, where they would do cuts. You didn't really look like a cut. It was just perfection, pure perfection. The relationships that he had with his friends worked well. I love the Foggy character. I love the lawyer parts where they're in court. They did a great job there. It looked believable. It was you were able to switch from this action over to these court parts, these court drama parts that were done perfectly. It was like, who made this fucking show? The first season was was such a masterpiece. The second season came in. For me, the second season isn't as great as the first, but that's not a hit on the second season, because if the first season to me is one of the greatest things in the history of television, then that means the second season just has a lot to live up to. And the fact that it came so close and they were able to strike the match twice, then that's great. So second season was great. It introduced other characters. Got to see Elektra. You got to see him fight the Hand. Punisher was introduced, and it was all done perfectly. It's like you have all these characters, big Marvel characters, kind of thrown together, but it doesn't feel crowded. It felt the pacing was perfect. They went through 2 characters or 3 characters storylines, and it didn't feel crowded. It didn't slow down. It didn't feel too short. It didn't feel too long. It felt like it was perfect. It was like, who's writing these shows? These people need to be given more jobs. Season 3 came along. I remember when I first saw it, because I've watched the whole series, probably this is my 3rd time. I remember the first time watching season 3. I don't remember thinking it was as good as the other 2 seasons. I kept thinking it was the worst. But watching it again, because I just watched all 3 seasons again to watch this new Born Again series. Season 3, if you remove the episode about Karen, it was the best season. I mean, there's certain parts to each season, I guess, especially the first and the third, where it's like magical. It's done so well. The scene where Kingpin is, or the episode where Kingpin is delving into dead Bullseye's past, and it's kind of like this play. It looks like the set of a play. Magic. Like, wow, this is perfect. At the end, the ending of that season was so perfect. The end fight where you can feel the frustration in Matt Murdock, where he's like, I want to beat this fat guy to death, but I can't. And you can like feel the frustration. There was a point where I felt like I wanted to scream too. I was like, this. The fight between Daredevil and Bullseye, the first encounter was. I can't say enough about this series. That series, that fight between those two was. I don't want to say things, that too loosely, but maybe because I'm in the moment. But I'm going to say it anyway. Fuck it. I'm going to say it was the best comic book battle I've ever seen, and the reason I say that, because there have been great comic book battles that have been visually better than this. But the reason I give this show so much credit and so much respect is it's a television show. They don't have a great budget. They don't have a lot of money. We've seen a lot of other television shows crash and burn very easily. This show not only didn't crash and burn, it stayed faithful to the characters. It used a little bit of money that it had, and it did everything it needed to do properly. Bullseye is not a martial artist. He's not a great fighter. He's an assassin. The greatest thing about him is that he has is perfect aim, and also he can throw regular things with like a strong enough impact to kill people. But it's really that he has perfect aim. So when they got into the fight and he's dressed up as Daredevil, I'm like, all right, this is probably gonna be cool, but he's gonna be doing all kinds of martial arts and stuff. No, that wasn't the case. They really stayed true to the characters. Bullseye is only able to stop Matt by throwing things at him. And once Matt gets in close, that's it. He's really hurting Bullseye. And I'm like, as a fan of comic books who've been reading these things since the 80s, you appreciate when creators pay attention to the source material, and they're respectful to it because they follow it. They do what they can to write the story to make it believable and to do what they can within the budget, but they do everything they can to stay close or follow it perfectly. You got to give them credit for that, and as a comic book fan, I give them all the credit in the world. There were parts, there were little things that kind of annoyed me, like Ben Urich being turned into a black person, Stick fighting with a sword instead of a stick. His name is Stick. It's not Sword. Should be fighting with a stick. But those are little things, and when the show shines that great, those little things are irrelevant. If a show is bad or the story is horrible, those little things tend to stand out more, and I tend to complain about those more. But when the story is as great as this shit, and the pacing and the costumes and the lighting and the ambiance and the music and all that stuff is as perfect as it was, I'm not going to go complain about any little things. So to me, these first 3 episodes were the pinnacle. They were the best superhero thing that I ever saw on television or on film. You've had great superhero movies that I've loved growing up. Again, Batman, a lot of them, not a lot, but some of the Marvel MCU movies, the 1990s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. There are others that I can't even think of off the top of my head. Really good ones that I like or love. But none of them captured me like this show. This was a show for me. It felt like a show for people who were, for like adults. You know how they make a lot of these movies and things with superheroes, but they don't cater, but they have to make it for everybody, obviously. They're making it for kids, they're making it for teenagers, for young adults, and for older adults, for everyone. Anyone can watch it and enjoy it. This felt like this comic book was this series was made for people who were adults, which I appreciated. We've been reading about these characters. Most of us adults who are in our late 20s, our 30s, our 40s, 50s, 60s, it's people in their 70s who have been reading these comic books from when they were young in the 70s or 60s or whatever. You kind of want to you know that there are adult themes in the comic books, and you want to see it translated onto film, and you get to see it in shows like this. So it's everything about the show is great. All right, that's the first 3 seasons of Daredevil from Netflix. So then they canceled the show. Couldn't believe they canceled the show. And then they said they're bringing it back. All right, but they're bringing it back on Disney. Here we go. So I was like, all right, I gotta see this. Is Daredevil. To me, this is the greatest thing of all time. I want to, see it, even if they don't do it great. And if they follow what came before it, you should still have something unbelievably good, at least, or at least really good. All you gotta do is follow the shit in the first thing. Don't stray from the fucking course. So, again, I just watched the last 3 seasons. I finished the last episode in season 3 and then fired up Born Again. Okay, this is, again, I'm gonna record every time I finish watching an episode or a bunch of episodes. So I only watched the first episode so far. If I contradict myself later, it's because I haven't watched those episodes yet, right now. So it's whatever. So the season starts up, and they show Matt and Foggy and Karen, and it's great because, again, I just finished watching the last episode of season 3. The last episode of that, one of the last scenes was them sitting in Foggy's family's deli, talking about their future and being happy. It's a great ending. So you see them together now, and one of the first fucking things that happens is they murder Foggy. Foggy was a great foil for Matt. He helped ground Matt and keep him level. It's like, how would this character exist without Foggy in the first series? Removing him is stupid, especially when he doesn't die in the comic books. If anything, fucking Karen dies in the comic books. Karen becomes like a whore, I think, and a drug addict, and then she redeems herself or whatever, and then Bullseye winds up killing her, and she doesn't come back. She's one of the only comic book characters that doesn't get resurrected. So killing her off, I wouldn't have wanted them to do it that early, but if you're going to kill off somebody, kill that bitch off. You don't kill off his best friend that he's known for so long, but they kill him off. And it's funny, watching that beginning, he kills all, Foggy gets shot, he dies, and then Daredevil tries to kill Bullseye. He throws him off a roof. Bullseye lands, and it looks like he dies, and the camera kind of pans out of Bullseye's dead body, and Karen is over Foggy's dead body, and I felt it. I felt while I was watching that one scene, that one moment, it felt like the people at Disney were like, fuck the people at Netflix that made this other show. We're going to erase that show, and this is our show now. That's how it felt. It felt like that was the message they were trying to push. Like, fuck that other show. This is our show now. Because we killing off characters, and it's going to be a whole new bag. And I'm assuming that's what it's going to be, because this first episode was a disappointment in every way. You got to see Daredevil as Daredevil. Because again, Disney has a bigger budget, so they're able to use CGI. So I do appreciate the fact that they, had him swinging around on his cable and stuff like that. You didn't get to see that in the other show, because you only got to see him do it once, I think. And that's in the second season. He used the grappling hook once, I think, in the last episode of that second season, and never did it again. But Disney said, we're going to do it, and they used the money to make the CGI, so you're watching Daredevil as this acrobatic ninja who can swing and throw himself around because he's the man without fear. He jumps off the roof blindly because he's the man without fear. And you got to see a little bit of that in this Disney thing. Problem, though, the CGI looked like shit. It looked like a cartoon. There was a lot of stuff missing from the first series because, again, they didn't have the budget, so they couldn't really, no man moves like Matt Murdock in the comic book, so you can't hire someone to do it, so you're going to have to use CGI a bit. or risk hurting somebody, and stopping production. So you didn't get to see a lot of that. Like the Matt only does parkour probably like 2 times in the whole series, and it's not great parkour. But you appreciate it because the rest of the series is so great. You understand, well, they have limitations, but they're going to try to give you certain aspects that they can't do, but that exist in the story. So you get to see him do some parkour, and that's fine. Everything else is great. The action and the combat and the choreography is so great, that's fine. I mean, you can't have it all, apparently. So in the first series, we didn't mind the lack of CGI because they put the money where it was supposed to go in the story, story writers, in the direction, and in the choreography, and the decisions that the choreographers used, like getting the right stunt double and whatever the camera angle and stuff they did to make the scenes look the way as good as they did. Disney just pumped the money into the CGI, and so now it looked like they transitioned from a cartoon, live action, to a cartoon, and it looked janky, and it looked jerky, and it looked bad. You could clearly tell this was CGI, and it didn't look good at all. So you added this in, it just didn't look good. The Daredevil and Bullseye fight, it felt like a cheap shit version of what the Netflix series did. In the Netflix series, each season they had one elaborate kind of drawn out fight. So the first season, he had the fight in the hallway with the Russians. In the second season, he had the elaborate drawn out fight in a staircase with the bikers. In the third season, he had the elaborate drawn out fight in the prison. And it was like, that was like their little signature that they did. And it felt like in this episode, it felt like they were doing like a shit version of that. Because they had like this long fight, and the fight just didn't. How can I say this? The fights in these action things, the fights have to kind of make sense and look realistic to a point. Obviously, as realistic as can be in a comic book story, but it looked realistic to a point. That's what sells it. Because if you can make it look realistic, well, you did a great job. It's just a comic book thing, and you brought it into reality, and it looks real. So the people have to move in a certain way. The fight has to make sense. This fight didn't really make sense. Like, Daredevil would hit Bullseye and knock him down and then just stop to take a breath. Dude, this is an urgent situation. Knock him unconscious. Hit him over the head with the chair while he's on the ground. Or Bullseye would, like, slow down Matt by hitting him with too many knives, and then he would kind of, like, drag himself away. I get that they're tired, but remember the urgency of what's supposed to be happening. Bullseye's there and he's trying to escape or kill Matt, one of the two. But he's not doing either. He stops Matt and then he stops to take a breath. He leans up against a wall. The adrenaline should be flowing. He should be ready to cut his throat or should be ready to escape. And it's like they were just like, it was like just drawn out just because they wanted to make it look drawn out. It didn't make sense like it made sense in the other series. You could tell already in the beginning of the show, here's the laziness and the people that don't know what the fuck they're doing. So that fight wasn't a payoff for me. I appreciated them trying to make Daredevil look like Daredevil in his movements, but again, because the CGI looked so bad and because the mechanics behind this particular fight weren't done properly, it was a waste. And then you're still reeling over the fact that is Foggy in the street dying? So nothing about this scene. If you're gonna kill Foggy, which you shouldn't, it shouldn't be in the very beginning like he's a fucking throwaway character. This is this guy's link to reality, practically. You don't just throw him away. and then Jesus Christ. So that happens, and then there's like people before the fight, they're talking to people in a bar, and I don't know who these people are, and anyone that doesn't know, because they haven't watched my channels before, I'm black, so I don't care about diversity in television shows. I want there to be diversity, but I don't want it to feel forced. I don't want it to feel like there's a white men and women making a lot of money off of this show and they throw in some diversity to appease the masses. I don't want to feel that way. And in most of these Disney products, that's how it feels. It doesn't feel like they hired a black writer or a Hispanic writer or an Asian writer and said, you create your own thing and cast people that look like you. They don't do that. They hire some white people and they give out a few jobs to some non-white people, and all the big jobs go to the white people, and the white people throw in some non-white people to appease the masses and say, look, we're being diverse. And that's how this first part of this episode fell. There was like an Asian lady and a black guy, and there was a black girl, and then there's some white people. And it's just like, I'm from New York, and New York is diverse, but it's not always that diverse. It's not like a Gap advertisement. You will see people of other races talking amongst themselves, but normally, you're going to see some Asians talking amongst themselves in the corner. You're going to see some blacks at the bar talking to themselves. You're going to see some white people over by the fucking foosball table playing beer pong or something like that. And you'll see the Hispanic people coming in with their selves, and maybe we'll talk to each other, but people are still a little segregated. And it's just felt like all these different races of people know each other. It's like, I don't know how to describe it, but it feels fake and forced, and you can feel it in these Disney shows. And it gives a bad taste when you're watching these, and that's kind of what I got. So that scene I didn't like, then the fight scene and the murder of Foggy I didn't like, and then the show just opens up and it's like, what the fuck? One of the things I'll say about them is I like the way that they're trying to make you feel like Matt. So when he's walking down the street, they will kind of like zoom in on certain sounds, and that's cool. That's a cool decision somebody made, and I'll give them credit for that. I liked that. Outside of that, I don't think I liked anything else. Matt's new law group, again, it feels like the fake diversity is like, we're going to kill off. And again, I don't want it sounds like I am kissing up to white people. That's how it sounds, but I'm not. It's just these characters just happen to be white. And I that's not my fault. These characters in these comics were created by white people a long time ago, and they just happen to be white. Would I like to see more black characters? Obviously. But unfortunately, because of racism, we black people have been kept from certain things, so we haven't been able to do that. With that being said, when I'm watching an adaptation of something that happens to have a lot of white people in it, while I want us to have an equal seat at the table, I still want to see a faithful adaptation of that thing. Unfortunately, it has mostly white people in it, but that's just something I grew up on. I grew up on these comic books. So them killing off Foggy and then his new law partner is this black woman, it felt like that fake diversity thing that they just do. Like, hey, look, we're diverse, so everybody pay us money to watch our product. That's how it feels. So now he has this black female new partner in some new law firm, and he's living in like a new apartment, and it doesn't feel like the Matt from the first series felt like this kind of lost, divided man. He didn't feel like that anymore. He felt like he was accomplished and he moved on in life. He meets up with Karen, and Karen, again, I know I may be dumb because I don't pay attention to certain things, but if I'm disappointed by a show and I'm just sitting to watch it just to get to the end, I kind of zone out at certain points. So I don't know exactly what happened, but Karen is treating him like a piece of shit. Like, what did he do? She's like, no, I'm leaving. And he's trying to talk to her. He's like, please don't leave. And she's just like, basically like, fuck you, man, and leave. I didn't understand that, so they get rid of her. She's gone. Now it's just Matt in this new world by himself. And then they got Ben Urich's niece, I guess. There's going to be some other diversity character that's going to be thrown in that either doesn't exist in the comic books or that is so minuscule none of us know about the character. And there's like this new online news thing that we're watching. We don't know what it is yet, but I guess we'll find out. And then Kingpin is introduced, and Vincent D'Onofrio looks like a deflated version of the original Kingpin, which again was the greatest comic book villain portrayal of all time. And now it's looking at it and it's like, what happened to him? What's going on? So Then Kingpin decides to run for mayor. I'm gonna be going all over the place. Kingpin decides to run for mayor. He becomes mayor. I don't. Is it legal for people who are convicted of murder, who were found guilty of murder, to become mayor? I don't. This guy was murdered somebody. Someone even references it in his show. Like he just crushed some guy's head, and they let him out in a few years, and he's mayor. Is that a thing? Where the cities will allow convicted murderers to run for office? I've never heard of that before. So whatever. So he runs for office. There's new characters involved. There's like this new camera angle thing they're doing where they kind of zoom in. And there's like on the outskirts of the screen, it's like fuzzy. It's like, I don't like stupid shit they're doing to try to be, I don't know, different or revolutionary, and it's not working. So Kingpin's wife, this woman he loves, they have like some kind of thing. And maybe that's because I didn't watch. There must have been some other show I didn't watch where there's this shit that's happening I don't understand. I just finished watching the last episode in last season of the other Daredevil series. So him and his wife are kind of like not on speaking terms. Did something happen? I think that Kingpin was in that Echo show, which I'm never going to watch. So maybe something happened there, but I didn't know what was going on. They didn't really kind of catch up. There's a lot of just like nonsensical stuff and boring stuff. And I don't need action all the time. As I said in the other series, you were able to switch over to this sort of like legal drama portion of the show, which I loved. And the seriousness is great. I want shows to slow down and have seriousness. But it wasn't that the show was serious and lacking action. It just lacked anything really relevant that I cared about. I didn't know what was going on or care about it. Matt meets some lawyer woman or some therapist, and they start dating, and they fall in love. It seems like overnight. I was like, where's this fucking show going? The music choices now, it's like they have some kind of new music that doesn't seem to go with the show. Then Matt meets up with Kingpin or Fisk in a diner. And while I will say by the end of their conversation, I kind of enjoyed the banter at the very end. The very end where they were kind of like going back and forth, where Matt's like, you know, just stay on the straight and narrow and we won't have any problems. And Fisk kind of pushes back, like, you stop doing this vigilantism thing and we won't have a problem. And they're kind of pushing at each other. That was, at the end, it was kind of cool. But from the beginning of the conversation, just seemed like stupid. Like they put it there because of the dynamic in the first series. It doesn't just work just because it was in the other series. It has to make sense in the context of the show. It just didn't make sense. Why would Kingpin want to talk? I don't know. Maybe there's things I'm missing because these characters appeared in other shows that I'm not gonna watch. So something happened that I didn't see. But the dynamics seem very different. The show seems very different. The pacing, the camera angles, the edits. There's times when they're like somebody's talking, and I think they're doing it because Matt is, you're supposed to be hearing what Matt's hearing, but they'll be like, the camera will be on Matt and somebody else, and they'll be talking, and the next scene they're showing like somebody's ear. It's not their ear, but like a weird shot. Like it's the shot of the curb and the bumper of a car with somebody sitting on the car. Weird shots for like stupidity. So I didn't like season 1. Season 1 started off with what seemed like a big fuck you to the first series, which I didn't appreciate. It started off with some bad CGI and a kind of confusing, broken convoluted fight sequence. And then it just turned into, I don't know, I don't know how to describe it. Like a complete destruction of the previous series. Like they just were breaking it down and trying to reform it into their own thing. So I don't know what's going to happen in the next seasons. Maybe certain things will be explained. Maybe there'll be certain course corrections. I don't know. I don't think so. But so far, episode 1 is, if this is what the rest of the series is going to be like, then this shit's going to suck. I'll see you after the next bunch of episodes. All right, so I've seen episode 2 and 3 now. Jump right into it. I'm trying to make this quick because there's a lot of episodes, and this video is going to be longer than I want it to be. So episode 2, didn't really care for this episode either. The the White Tiger. At first, I thought they created a character, but no, White Tiger is a character that came out in the '70s, so I never heard of him before. But they had this character in here. I didn't really. I guess I didn't. The issue with the show is it's not flowing the same way that the other series did. So you have like this, what is it, BB reports? It's like Ben Urich's niece's, I guess, podcast or television show, and they just show clips of it randomly throughout the show. That kind of breaks up the show. Then there's weird things thrown in that doesn't seem like it will be. It may be, so I'll give it time, but it doesn't seem like it'll be relevant to the story. Like Fisk and his wife having going to therapy. It's like, what is this? The certain relationships they've destroyed, and that really is a problem because now you're kind of taking the show away from what it was. We're excited for this show not just because it's a Daredevil show. We're excited because of that Netflix series. And they've ripped apart certain things, like they killed off Foggy, they removed Karen. So the whole Matt's whole identity is kind of different than it was in the other series because you remove certain characters that kind of made him stick to his normal humanity or his normal Matt Murdock persona. So now he's trying to stick to his Matt Murdock persona, but I'm not really understanding why, because a lot of things have been removed. These new relationships that he's formed, it seems superficial because it doesn't make sense with the character that was created in that other series, that he would just attach himself or he would just become so free with these new people so quickly. It's been a year. So he had to have mourned Foggy, gotten over the fact that Karen was gone, met these people, built new relationships. It's for this type of character, the way that he was designed or treated in the other series, it doesn't make sense that he's just moved on to this new life fairly quickly. So his new relationships and stuff, it doesn't fit with the old show. It's like they're really just trying to break down the original show, and they shouldn't do that. His Fisk's relationship. So Fisk is one of his anchors is his wife. And it seems like they've kind of working to remove that. He doesn't have the same attachment to her, which I guess they're trying to develop the character in some way. But you've already developed these characters enough. You don't need to develop them more. You don't need to make new backstories for these people, or you don't need to create anything new for these characters. This isn't that type of story. This isn't a soap opera. This is an action drama show. That's what it's supposed to be. Primarily an action comic book story. That's why we watch it. So we want the drama and we want the explanation of the characters, but then give us new characters. Daredevil has other characters he interacts with and other villains. Introduce a new villain or something like that. You don't have to rehash or create new scenarios for these characters just to pad the story or to make it to make it feel like you're doing something special. I think they're trying to make it, people were so impressed with how fleshed out Wilson Fisk's character was that they're trying to expand upon that. You don't have to do that anymore. He's expanded enough. Basic Fisk really had his story in the first 3 seasons, and he had an ending. If you want to bring him back in, great, I'm all for it. I love their dynamic, but you don't have to delve into him anymore. We built him up enough. Move on to someone else, because now you're building him up and you're breaking down a lot of what he and Matt were in the other series. You're kind of changing the characters now. These characters that we were done so perfectly and that are so great, you're changing them, and we don't like that. So that kind of threw me. Still with the pacing of the show, it's not holding my attention. Moving on to episode 3, I'll give them credit. I enjoyed episode 3. I did. I enjoyed the legal part of it. They did what they should have did in She-Hulk, and they gave a compelling legal segment. Where Matt has to really dig into his lawyer tricks. You also had some good action. Was it in this episode or was it in the episode before? I think episode 2 at the end had some nice action scene that it was short and it was small. It's like this little piece of action show with a little dash of action. A lot of drama and a little bit of action. But the third episode I actually really enjoyed. I enjoyed, I think, really just the legal part of it. And the Matt character kind of shined. You also got to see a little bit of the darkness of Fisk. Kind of a reminder of how dark Fisk is and who he is, and you got little glimpses of what they may make him later on in the show. Fisk or Kingpin felt like Kingpin again. The first 2 episodes he didn't. D'Onofrio was still playing the role the way he was supposed to, but the writing kind of, you didn't know what direction, what direction are they trying to bring him in. This felt like it was getting back to form, which is good. Matt Murdock was kind of back to form. That was good. The writing for this episode was good, and the pacing for this episode was good. So if the show continues down this line, we'll see. But I'm still holding my breath, and I'm still unsure, because again, there's a lot of pacing things that I don't like. It's kind of discombobulated. It's kind of all over the place, and I'm not really appreciating the direction that they're taking the show. And it's kind of like Disney's came in and purposely said, well, we're going to break what the original show was, and we're going to make it our own. And again, I don't, you can make it your own without destroying what the original thing was. It's like they kind of removed everything. Another thing about this is Hell's Kitchen is supposed to, Hell's Kitchen, I don't even know if it's called Hell's Kitchen anymore in New York, but Hell's Kitchen's not what it used to be. Hell's Kitchen, when Daredevil was written, was kind of like a shithole part of the city, of New York City. It was kind of a shithole part of Manhattan, kind of dark and gritty, had a lot of biker gangs and stuff hanging out there. So the story is supposed to feel like a dark and gritty place. The original series was filmed in Long Island City. I used to work in Long Island City, so I recognize so many areas there. But they filmed it in in a part of Long Island City. There's like a community college. Then there's some warehouses in the area, in this particular area where they were filming in Long Island City, which is in Queens. And there's like a dock. So it's kind of like a warehouse. It looks like a warehouse area. So they kind of filmed it there because a lot of filming is done there. But that helped the original series because it made the show, while it didn't look dark and gritty, like a dirty city, it did feel like not, the newer Times Square-ish village areas in Manhattan. You weren't in Hell's Kitchen, but it made it feel like this is what Hell's Kitchen could be. I don't know if I'm explaining it right, but it felt like a grittier, dingier part of the city, even though they weren't filming in a city, they were in Queens. This new season, whatever, that's kind of removed, and that they took a bit of that away from the original series. That darkness, that Matt is in this place and he has to be Daredevil because this part of the city is, not a great part of the city, and he wants to elevate it. Where he lives now, it kind of looks like, well, you don't need Daredevil. This place looks nice. People eating pizza and doing random interviews in the street. You got people just hanging out, which is how New York City looks. But this show is based on a 70s comic book. Or I don't know when Daredevil came out. I'm assuming the 70s, but around that time. And you're supposed to try to retain that feeling of a gritty, kind of unsafe part of New York. This place looks like, well, you don't need Daredevil. They screwing up in that way. The part of the city just looks too nice. Fisk, the mayor thing, I'm still not getting over this, how this guy is the fucking mayor. This guy is a convicted murderer. Somebody, if anyone watches this and they care to do this, could you please just put in the comments how Fisk got out of prison so fast. The last show ended in the last season was what, 2018 or 2019? Let's say 2018. It's now 2025, so it's been what, 7 years, and this guy served only 7 years for bribery, murder, corruption, racketeering, drug smuggling, trafficking, intimidation. He served 7 years, just only 7 years for all that. And how did he get out of prison? And if he did some sort of whatever to get out of prison, why would they let him run for mayor? The guy's a convicted felon. Did he have the conviction everything completely overturned? If so, how? That's, I guess they explained it in some other show, but they didn't explain it here, and they needed to explain it here because most of us we watched Daredevil, and then we came to watch this. We don't know what the fuck happened. How did this guy get out of prison? They didn't explain that. It's this laziness in the show. Matt's relationship with the psychiatrist or psychologist. I don't know where that's going, but again, a lot of this stuff feels forced. It doesn't feel. His relationship with Karen kind of made a little bit more sense because, they built it up over the course of 2 seasons. He didn't start a relationship with Karen until, what, the Defenders, maybe? So, in a third season of a show, it took a while for him to get here. He's just dating this woman. Next thing, he's in love with her. It doesn't fit with the Matt character. Maybe if his life was normal and Foggy was still alive and he was just going about his thing, but this is kind of post normalcy for him. Even though he's not Daredevil anymore, that's not normal. Daredevil's a part of him, so he's having to suppress a part of him. His best friend, was like a brother to him, was murdered, and he didn't do anything to protect him. He failed to protect his best friend. His mother, he isn't even interacting with his mom. I don't know. The show, they're missing certain things. Episode 3 so far was a bit of saving grace because I really enjoyed that episode. I was kind of the actors did good jobs. The cop that was bribed, that was the corrupt cop that was in the subway that survived. He did a great job acting. I even appreciated the lawyer and even the judge. A lot of the actors had memorable spots. So we'll see. That's episode 2 and 3. I got, what is it? How many episodes left? 6. I'm gonna try to watch a whole bunch at once. It's just I got a family and I work, so I can't really just binge these shows because my kid can't watch them with me because he's a baby. So I'll catch me on the next side. What does that mean? They're on the roof! Alright, so now we're back to shit territory. Episode 4. It's like a random throwaway episode. I keep referencing the first series, and I have to because, the show is being judged against that. The first series, there were no throwaway episodes. There was only one episode out of all 3 seasons that I thought was irrelevant and a waste of time. It was too long of an episode, but it was kind of relevant. You didn't need some of that information from that episode. It was relevant to the whole story. It's just the episode took too long, and that was the episode that focused on Karen Page's life in season 3. Outside of that, which again, that episode, while it was too long and they spent too much time on it, it was still needed. But outside of that episode, there were no other episodes, no other wasted episodes where it was just filler. And now we're back to Disney doing this filler thing, like a lot of these networks where they just pad the season because they don't have any real plan or any real story to follow. So you can clearly tell that it's padding. It feels like padding and filler and a waste and a throwaway episode. So I didn't like it because of that. Whereas there's some good Matt Murdock Daredevil sequences, yes. Getting to see Matt Murdock interacting with the I'm not inspired. I'm kind of like huffing and puffing. Interacting with the bank robbers, that was kind of okay, but then it was overshadowed by too much irrelevant stupidity and nonsense. The pushing of this fucking Kamala Khan character. No one cares about Kamala Khan. We don't care about that character. Stop pushing it. Stop trying to push this character down our throats. We don't care about her. All of these characters in Marvel that you can use, well-known characters that we want to see, and you're pushing these nonsensical joke characters that most people don't know nothing about. Nobody cares about Kamala Khan. We're overpassing so many characters. Kamala Khan has been in video games already, had her own fucking movie. I think she's had her own television series. Stop pushing this character. That's what I mean by the forced diversity. We want diversity, but we don't want this forced crap. You have diverse characters that exist already. Make a reboot of the Luke Cage show. There's a lot of different characters that you could choose from. Do it to a Black Panther show. Oh, now that I've come to think of it, there aren't a whole lot. But there are existing ones that you could use. Don't be creating they're creating these new characters and to just be diverse, like Miles Morales and Kamala Khan, and then just putting them out there. And it's not even just the diverse characters. There's any of these new characters, no matter what race they are, stop pushing them. There's existing characters, there's old characters. All these new character shows that you try to push and characters that are so that aren't popular, they're not well known, and you're trying to push them like Shang-Chi, and you're pushing these characters. Nobody knows these characters or cares about them, and it's frustrating because there are a lot of characters that you should be focusing on. Are we working on the X-Men movie? We just got around to Fantastic Four after all this time. There's a lot of other characters you can work on. Stop pushing these characters. So they're doing the force push, not Star Wars force push, but they're forcing this Kamala Khan character onto us. So the dad, he goes to a bank and it's the girl's dad, and the dad is talking about her like she's the most important part of his family. No father is going to talk about his family in that way. It's like he mentions his family but names her by name. It's just awkward and dumb. I didn't like that. The banter, I guess you could call it, between the bank robber and the Korean cop. That was like, what I was watching it like, what the fuck am I watching? What is this? Does this have anything to do with the story, or is this just a throwaway episode? And it may have something to do with the story. Again, as I'm recording each of these segments, I've only got up to that particular episode, so I'm only up to episode 4, but I'm like, dude, there's other stuff you could reference. Talking about this crap, it's starting to annoy me. So this was like a throwaway episode. There were other things that were done within the episode. Matt Murdock, he fights off hordes of ninjas by himself, successfully, sometimes very easily. But then because the writing is shitty, he then gets into a fight with like a bank robber and has a really hard time. And it's, again, these are little things that people aren't going to notice or care about, and they're, going to say I'm nitpicking, but, that it's not a small thing. The writing, these little cracks in the writing, too many little cracks, then the writing shatters. The story behind the show then shatters and becomes stupid and irrelevant. So these little cracks are something that have to be talked about, and things that writers have to watch out for. So there's no reason. This guy's in a bank and he fights one bank robber in a stairwell, and it's kind of like drawn out fight. It's just a bank robber. Is this guy like a special martial artist? He's just a regular bank robber. Why is it taking so long for Matt Murdock to knock this guy out? And then a few scenes later, there's another bank robber. He knocks him out in one blow. And then a few scenes later, at the end of the episode, he's having like a battle with the bank robber leader. It's Matt Murdock. I thought this guy was like this great ninja. Why is it taking him so long? Why is he so successful in some fights and is finding such difficulty in other fights with regular street level people? So it's a lot of just things. even if the episode is passable, there's these stupid things peppered in that's like, oh God. So when you take the little stupid things and you couple it with the fact that this episode seems like it wasn't needed and like it was a throwaway episode and like it was filler, then it's, another disappointment. So they're trying to make this into a longer series, you can tell. So you're going to get this padding. And you didn't need that in the first series. There was no padding. And they had 3 seasons and were going to do a 4th. And each season was fully fleshed out, had a great story, had great pacing. You know exactly where they were going. They got there by the end. It wasn't too fast. It didn't take too long. And that was each season, 3 different seasons they were able to do that without having to use padding and filler episodes. And they were going to keep going. So they clearly had some kind of a plan. This new series is going to be like a lot of other shit shows on television where they don't have a plan. They're just, this is a popular thing. Let's just make it and then try to stretch it out for as long as we can. And those stories and those shows always suffer because there's no real direction. There's no real plan. It's just a piecemeal together some short story and then fill the season with padding and filler episodes and waste people's fucking time, episodes that don't need to be there, and so they don't align with the rest of the story, so the story's all over the fucking place, and then by the end they get canceled or the writers just quit or the producers just quit, and so you get a rushed ending like Lost. The ending is just forced, or like Game of Thrones. It's just rushed together because they don't have a real ending. Because they didn't have a plan. It would just, this is just a job, which is fine. If you're just doing a job because some people want to make some money, again, I don't have a problem with people doing that. But you got to make something competent. If you don't, well, people are going to call you out on it. If you're making something competent and it's just a job to you, that's fine. We're going to give you our praise like we did with the first Daredevil series. You're going to get praise. You're going to collect money. You're going to get other opportunities. Just do a competent job or a good job or a great job. Just don't do crap. When you do crap, well, we're going to notice this is crap. And then we get frustrated that these fuckers are just throwing something together to try to enrich themselves. Well, then it's lazy and then we're going to call you out on it. So this episode, I guess I'm like almost halfway through. So far, this isn't good. I was going to say it's not bad because you do have some flashes. Again, episode 3, I thought was a great episode. I thoroughly enjoyed that episode. But there's too much stuff sprinkled around it. The stupid editing, I'm getting tired of random shots of the street, and random people with some music playing in the background. It's like they're trying to be edgy or different or artistic, and it's failing. It's not. You have another series that this show is going to be judged against. You have to follow the pacing of that other series. Because that's why you're making this new series with the same actors. Because of the success of that other series. So don't stray away from that formula too much. Because then, you're going to lose people. If not, you should have just made something new. But now that you're flying or you're going along off the coattails of that other series, well, we're going to compare it to that other series. And that other series didn't need that shit. And not only did it not need it, but the pacing it set, it doesn't go with this new shit that you're doing, where it's just random shots of people in the city. Like, what the fuck am I watching? Is this a 2000 MTV video reel? What am I watching? This is supposed to be a semi-serious action comic book drama show thing. So that was annoying me. They keep doing this BB reports. There's like a newscasting thing where there's some interviewing people. I don't know how if that's relevant to the show or not. Again, it just seems like they're throwing in there to be different. Different's not always good. So, again, show's not good so far. I got like 4 or 5 more episodes to go, so I'll see. But so far, it's all complete shite.
If anyone has any doubts about that, feel free to carry on and find out the hard way.
You kill anyone and your armed robbery charge converts to a felony murder. And you're looking at 25 to life.
We have a solicitor on our hands.
You're gonna have to excuse the audio on the acoustics on this one because I'm in the bathroom recording this. It's late at night, dishwasher's running. I can't record in my usual spot because everybody's asleep. I just finished watching an episode, and I had to go into it now while I can still remember. So I watched episode 6 like a few days ago. So episode 6, nothing really eventful happened. It was the same old. Only issue I had was, you know, the daughter of White Tiger, or the niece or whatever she was. The way she was so determined to catch this person that she thinks her uncle was targeting, that just didn't make sense, that seemed forced, that was lazy writing. And then it leads into Daredevil's fight with this character Muse that I never heard of before. The fight was a good fight. Couple things, one thing I didn't like about the fight, which I'll go into in a little bit. But, you know, Daredevil's finally back. This is episode 7, so you don't really get to see him. Episode 6, so you don't get to see him until like 6 episodes in. That's crazy to me. So I don't really remember much about that episode. I didn't take any notes because the show's not, I guess, worth it. Episode 7, Jesus Christ. Episode 7 I just finished watching. And I had to record after seeing this. So episode 7, episode is an episode. There's nothing horrible about it, I guess, until towards the end. So towards the end, Muse shows up at the psychiatrist's office. He shows up at the psychiatrist's office, and I think immediately most of us probably knew it was him, right? We knew, okay, that's the Muse guy. But as soon as I realized it was him, I was like, this guy has no bruises on his face? He had no bruises at all. Episode 6, Daredevil literally beat the shit out of him. Literally. He beat the shit out of this guy, and this guy had no bruises. Nothing on his face. He looked like he just woke up from a full night of sleep. This would have been in the middle of the night. This guy had no bruises. He wasn't on the run. I don't believe this shit. He had like equipment that he needed in order to do his whatever he wanted to do, but Daredevil had caught him by surprise at his hideout, and he had to run without access to anything. So already the lazy writing. He has nothing on him. One thing, I don't remember Matt. I don't remember them explaining Matt getting his costumes back. Maybe they did and I missed it. They showed him look at them, but I don't remember them explaining. Again, that must have been in another show that I didn't see. But at the end of at the end of The Defenders, he kind of gets beat up, or not, at the end the building falls on him, and he doesn't have his outfit anymore. So where did he get the outfits from? And the equipment again? I don't know if they explain that or not, but Matt has his equipment back, and a reason I was talking about the outfit is the inconsistencies with Matt's fighting. So, Daredevil goes around beating these people up. Some people he takes out in like 1 or 2 blows, and then you got fights like this that drag on, that it's like never ending. Like this guy didn't feel pain or something. The only other person that they showed him fight like that was, I was about to say Deadshot, was Bullseye in season 3. But that was kind of explained because Bullseye had on Daredevil's costume, which Daredevil had specifically made to armor him. It had armor and the helmet and stuff. So you can kind of look at it as, all right, he's hitting him, but it's not, he's not doing that much damage because this guy got armor on. That's why those fights, as long as they took, made sense to me. But in this new series, no, there's some fights where he knocks the guy out in 1 punch, and then there's other fights where he punches people like 100 times, and they still keep coming. And there's no explanation as to why. The people, one guy was a bank robber, and they didn't have any explanation as to why this guy was able to take full on punches to the face and not feel pain. This Muse guy, he's like beaten this guy badly. I mean, this is like an intense fight scene, and the guy just keeps coming. It's like, dude, what the fuck does he? He hit him with the billy club like 2 times. He hit the cop with the billy club, and it knocked him unconscious in 1 shot. He hits this guy like twice, and this doesn't do nothing. It doesn't even stun him. We're back to the lazy writing. This series is gonna fail. It's gonna be another failure because you now have this series is now back in the hands of lazy writers. Muse has the psychiatrist in a chair, and dude, this guy has a scalpel in his hand, and he cuts this woman's arm open. He cuts her arm open with a scalpel, and she's like, oh, she's not drugged. She don't feel no pain. I mean, even if she was drugged, she wasn't. He didn't. I don't know. I don't think she was drugged. But he cuts her arm open. She's not screaming. It doesn't seem like she's in any real pain. I'm sitting there watching like, dude, these fucking writers. So this episode was really just me sitting there like, what? Daredevil goes into the Muse's hideout, and he touches a picture, and then he can tell it's a portrait of this woman. That's not how it works. That's not how it works. Yes, some blind people will touch people's faces to get an idea of what they look like, but you're not going to then go to a picture and touch it and feel the raised lines and know, oh, that's her face. That the stupidity. The cops are like, we did a facial reconstruction, and this is a psychiatrist in this. Even if the cops were able to use some sort of facial reconstructions or some face system, where I don't know what system they were talking about, but they had some kind of cop system where they could take a picture maybe of the person's face and it would tell you who they were, but that it would only tell you based on the images in the database. Why would this psychiatrist's face be in the database of the police? Was she a criminal? Did she have a record? It's like just convenient. Oh yeah, Daredevil can touch the picture and he automatically knows out of all the people in the city, it has to be the psychiatrist woman. How would he know that? This shit make no sense to me. I'm sitting there, my mouth is just hanging open like, what the fuck? And then the cop just calls Kingpin. Yeah, our facial system, it tells us it's this particular psychiatrist. Who is this agency? Fucking S.H.I.E.L.D.? Boy. So again, the show is not a great show. It's I can't even say it's good because I'm not really. I would have, if it was a good show, I probably would have watched it, the episodes back to back. But I watched one and I'm like, I don't feel like watching another one. This stupid shit. I don't know where it's going. There's like characters in there that really don't seem like they need to be in there, like Tony Soprano Jr. I don't know what his character's gonna be, but he's like a tough guy now, threatening his friends, and then there's like stupidity, like nonsensical scenes that are just there as padding, like the not scenes but scenarios, like Wilson Fisk's having issues with some of his some of the criminals that worked for his wife. So it's like where is this going? Does it feel cohesive? It's just like we threw stuff in there because we want some padding to kind of fill out this 8 episode or 9 episode schedule that we got, and then we'll get renewed for a new season, and just throw it up in the air and see what happens. We'll play it by ear. You could tell there's no like real plan. Daredevil feels like a background character in his own fucking show. Kingpin is not as threatening. He doesn't feel as threatening anymore. In the first series, you feared him. You literally feared him. Now he looks older. He looks more like an old man. So, okay, there was a scene where he beat up the woman. I think he's the man that his wife had an affair with. He kind of looked back to form in that scene. That didn't look bad. It looked like, all right, there's Kingpin, but I think there was some body doubles maybe and some CGI thrown in, but I don't know. It didn't look good. I'll give credit where credit's due. I was making fun of the CGI in what episode was it? 6? In episode 6, when Daredevil suits up and he's going off to look for Muse, they did like a really short CGI sequence where he's jumping roof to roof. That looked good. It really did. That looked good, and I was like, oh, okay, that looks cool. If you can do little shots like that to show Daredevil's agility and his parkour skills and stuff like that, that's good. That looked good, but there's not enough of it. Daredevil was in the first episode, which was a miserable episode, because again, it wiped away everything from the others. It seemed like it was trying to erase or kick the other series. So that was a shit episode. And then he doesn't appear till episode 6. And the show's called Daredevil. So it's just bad decisions. Bad decisions, lazy, stupid writing. Daredevil's costume still looks like shit. That's from the first series. He looked bad. He's always looked bad. He's always looked like crap in that suit. But I mean, come on, dude. It's 2025. There's no costume designers that can make a better looking suit at this point. The suit don't look good. Showing him with just a cowl, maybe that looks kind of cool up close. But when you look at the whole suit, it looks kind of stupid and frumpy, and it doesn't. I don't know. I don't like it. So that's episode 6 and 7. Episode 6, I don't remember too much except the end. Episode 7 just went over that. The scene at the end where Kingpin's eating and the guy comes in and gets shot. Again, I can tell by someone who's watched shows and movies for a long time, I can tell this is going to be a sequence that's not relevant. It's just filler. It's not going to be that important. This whole run that Kingpin's on as mayor, it feels like I don't know how to explain this, but it feels unnecessary. It's taking away from what the character is. The Kingpin is now acting more emotional than he did before. I mean, this is the Kingpin. He shouldn't be more emotional now than he was in the beginning. The first series was him turning into the Kingpin, becoming this better monster, of organized crime. He should be more of a master by this point. Now he seems like he's making more mistakes. He's more emotional, doing, frustrated a lot more. It's not Kingpin. So we'll see what happens. I think I got 1 or 2 more episodes to go. This is going to be a long video. All right, next episode 8, second to last. Got one more. This episode was I watched it a few days ago, so I don't remember exactly what happened. But there's nothing significant that happened in it. It was really relevant to me. Bullseye and Daredevil's encounter in the prison. It was fine. It wasn't bad. It wasn't great. There's nothing special about it. These encounters have been done better in the previous series, but this wasn't bad. It wasn't a bad thing. So it looks like Bullseye kind of used this. It seems like Bullseye set this whole thing up just to get out of prison, which I guess he knew that Matt was gonna bang his head or hit him in some way, and it would give him a tool that he could use. I guess I don't know if that was what they were trying to do, or if it just so happened that Bullseye used this encounter to get out. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know, but I'm kind of like not caring. So Bullseye gets out of prison. What happened before all that? Matt was like talking to the lawyer. I don't know. Whatever. It's irrelevant stuff to me. So Bullseye gets out of the prison and he goes to a gala ball that Kingpin is having. And Kingpin is talking to some guy who is the Matador or something, or the Fencer or something like that. Some character I've never heard of. And I don't even care to research these characters because they're not going to go anywhere. The White Tiger character had some kind of promise, but they killed him off. And what I'm assuming that Disney's going to do in all their LGBT feminism greatness is they're going to try to replace or try to use the niece, which I don't know if they're going to do this because the girl is very short, but they're probably going to try to use the niece to replace the male White Tiger, so you'll have another female character that Marvel can use in their psychotic agenda push to kind of erase males. But they killed off the White Tiger, so that wasn't realized. This new hero vigilante that I've never heard of, probably never going to see that character again. So that wasn't relevant, I guess. I don't know. All this stuff is just not relevant. You're putting in characters, but you're not utilizing them in any special way, so we don't care. Most of us don't know about these characters, so most of the fans don't even care because we've never heard of them, and the non-fans don't have a chance to care because you're killing off the characters in like the same episode that you reveal who they are. So I don't know who this character is, but this whole sequence, again, this show, and a lot of shows do this, and it's when you're lazy. The first series had little glimpses of this, but it wasn't that glaring where it was a problem, and the rest of the show was so good that you kind of ignored it, or you didn't even realize it because the show was so good. This show doesn't have that. It's not that great of a show. It's a huge downgrade from the previous series, so things are going to stand out. And one of the things that's standing out a lot is the inconsistencies with Matt's abilities. So one thing that I praised this show for was they do this little thing where Matt's walking, and they'll kind of like zoom in or focus in on a particular sound, and it kind of gives you it kind of lets you understand how Matt uses his abilities. That's cool, and I always thought that was cool. But then later on in the series, like in this episode, stupid stuff starts happening that doesn't make sense. We've seen in the previous series, this guy, one of the greatest parts, not one of the greatest parts, but a good bit of dialogue that Matt had with Foggy was when he explained to him why he does what he does. And he told him, he said, I would be in my bed at night and I'm laying there and I'm hearing all these things. And one thing that he heard, he was able to pinpoint in some other part of the area, of the community. He heard a man going into his daughter's bedroom every night to attack her. I can't say the word because these platforms use it as an excuse to shadow ban other people, certain people. But he goes into his child's room and does stuff to her every night. And Matt would have to lay in bed and hear it, and it was driving him crazy. So he went out and he found the man and he, beat the man up, and then it stopped. It never happened again, and he said he never slept better in his life or something like that. You have things like that. There was another instance where Matt was trying to track down the blind Chinese drug smuggling people. And so he sat on a roof and listened. If you've never lived or been in New York, like you'd have to live there to really experience it. You're not going to really understand the sounds that go on in New York. I worked on one of the top floors of the Empire State Building, and I heard police and fire truck sirens all day. And it's not because there was an accident happening in the same spot. It's because I'm so high up that I'm hearing all these different sirens from all around the city. There's so many of them, so many incidents happening that I'm hearing it all day. So there's a lot of noise in the city. But Matt's able to sit on a roof and pinpoint where this blind person is based on the music in the car, I think, and was able to go and get to them and find them. That's how precise they have established this guy's hearing and his, his radar ability. Then you come into this episode, and stuff is happening that you're like, what? Why is Matt not detecting it all of a sudden? So Bullseye gets into. I think they let him know that Bullseye escaped. I think he knew that already. So he should have had an idea that he was coming there. So he should have been listening. I don't remember if they did or not. But either way, he would have heard or felt or smelt something based on his abilities in the rest of this season and in the other series. He should have caught on that, that Bullseye guy is here. Poindexter is somewhere in the vicinity or he's in the building. But he didn't know until the very last minute. Also, he's trying to listen in on Kingpin's conversation, so he grabs his new girlfriend and goes on the dance floor so he could be near him. It's Daredevil. He should be able to hear Kingpin's conversation in a room across the town. So now all of a sudden he has to be close to him in order to hear the conversation. It's stuff and this isn't even like little stuff. This is big stuff that these stupid writers just don't. You have to be stupid. It's not even lazy. It's just like these people are just stupid. Why does he have to get closer to him to listen? It's Daredevil. He don't have to be that close. He gets on the dance floor and you have this weird like dance. At first I thought they were gonna have like a superhero, supervillain dance-off or something. I was like, why is this guy getting on the fucking dance floor? Are they going to have a dance-off now? I wouldn't have been shocked if they did it at this point. But no, he got on the dance floor because he's trying to get closer so he could hear Kingpin. You've been listening to him have conversations in other rooms all night. Why do you now need to be closer to him? That just didn't make sense. It was like the writer thought, this will be cool. It'll be cool. It's the villain and the hero juxtaposed against each other on the dance floor with their loved ones. And then they have this conflict. They probably thought that it would be cool, but again, because you're a stupid, incompetent fool, you mess up your own story by not paying attention to what you've already established. It's the dumb stuff like that that happens in these. And then Daredevil goes to save Kingpin or Kingpin's wife. I mean, you know why he hates Kingpin, right? You know why he hates, what's her name? Vanessa, why he hates Kingpin's wife. Because he just realized or recently found out that Vanessa had his best friend and brother killed, murdered. And he's going to stop. I mean, you, Jesus Christ. You don't want to be Daredevil and you don't want to do this stuff. You want to let things just play out. So when there is a threat and the threat is about to be taken out and you're not involved, you didn't do it, why would you jump in and stop it? And not only jump in and stop it, but put yourself in harm's way. So now you're incapacitated because somebody shot you in the arm or in the chest or wherever he got shot. The person that that is causing harm to the city and to your life, they're still surviving and they're still fine and they're going to be able to operate as normal. And and you're not going to be able to do anything about it because now you're incapacitated. You could have been murdered. It's just the logic in the writing of these stories just threw the whole episode off. So I just didn't even care about anything else that happened in the episode. This guy jumped in front of the bullet when this assassin is going to take out one or both of the people that you really need gone. You know that the law won't do it. You can't do it because you can't kill. And when I say the law won't do it, the law won't keep them in prison. They won't leave these people in prison. They're always finding a way out. You can't get rid of them. The villain's not going to stop doing the things that they're doing. Anybody with a brain would be like, the only option is this person's got to die. And if I'm not going to kill them, but if they happen to die because of decisions and things that they've done to themselves, well, then that solves the problem. But no, I'm going to sacrifice my own life to save this threat. So I could possibly get myself killed right now in this moment. And all three of these villains, Vanessa, Wilson Fisk, Poindexter, all three of them will still be alive. I'll be gone. I'll be dead, or at most I'll be injured and in the hospital while these people are free to do whatever they want. So I'm just a stupid failure of a hero. I know these people, because it's a superhero or a hero, a vigilante, they're trying to do the regular hero trope where the hero puts their life on the line. But I mean, come on, man. This isn't just the way you've written these characters. You can't just go off of tropes. You decided to change these stories, these comic book stories, and try to make them more grounded and more realistic. Well, then be more grounded and be more realistic and do things that make sense. The type of character that Matt Murdock is at this point in his life and at this point in his career, he's not going to throw his own life away to save 3 threats. I'm not going to purposely engage in an action that I know could remove me from the playing board, knowing that these 3 people will still be around to commit their crimes. My whole goal is to try to stop these people from committing their crimes. Why would I go out of my way to do things to remove myself so I'm not there to stop them and let them run free, because I know the justice system isn't going to stop them because they haven't done it all this time. So that was the end of that episode. Now I got one more episode left. Let me go watch that real quick, and then I'm going to try to edit this up.
What are you doing? Oh, I'm so sorry. Mind if I cut in?
Okay, so I've seen the last episode. You see, I knew it. I knew you could tell from watching these shows. If I'm repeating myself, that's because this was recorded over several days, or a couple weeks or something. I knew this was going to happen. I knew you could tell by watching these shows that this was one of those filler seasons where they just waste time with nonsense and needless footage, needless scenes, needless characters, irrelevant crap. And then you get like half of a story or a quarter of a story, and then by the end of the season is a cliffhanger, and you got to come back next season. I knew that was going to happen. The first series, and I know I keep comparing this to the first series, but you can't talk about the show without comparing it to the first series, because they're connected. They're part of the same thing practically. The first series gave you a full, well-written, fleshed out story each season from beginning to end. You got a beginning and you got an end. There were no cliffhangers at the end. The only cliffhanger I could think of is maybe at the very end of season 3, where they showed that Bullseye was being worked on, but that wasn't that much of a cliffhanger. This I could tell from watching it. There was just so much irrelevant stuff and nonsense going on that you were like, well, doesn't pertain to the story. This isn't really relevant to the story, and it's not that important. After a while, once you get enough of those scenes, you start to realize, oh, they're just padding the season with garbage. They pad the season with trash so that they can keep the show going, so that they have a reason to do a new season and to bring people back, so that the people can finish the one BS story that they may have come up with that they probably don't even have an end to in their own minds. They're just winging it. They have an idea for a story and they just wing it until the money runs out and the studio cancels the show, or they get tired of doing the show and they decide they want to quit. And I knew that's what was happening in this season, and that's why I didn't like it. So this episode starts again. Even the writers at least were were competent enough, I guess. I don't want to call them competent, but at least they had some kind of brain cell workage going on where they were able to pose the question. Punisher asks Daredevil, "Why did you jump in front of the bullet?" Even Daredevil's like, "I don't know." So this stupid BS shit that happens at the end of episode 8, where he jumps in front of a bullet to protect Kingpin, it translates over to here. So he's in this. Dude, the writing for this show, for this season, was just. It wasn't. There are other shows that have been just pathetic writing, and this wasn't pathetic writing, but it was incompetent at times. It was smart at times, and then it was downright imbecilic and idiotic at times. And this episode was just full of stupidity. So, what happens first? Kingpin sends one man to go and kill Daredevil, to kill Matt Murdock. I guess everybody knows that Matt Murdock is Daredevil now. So he sends this guy to the hospital to kill Matt Murdock, right? Oh, before I do that, well, no, I'll get into that. So he sends us one guy to kill Matt Murdock. Matt, again, we've established a little bit in this series, but we established a lot in the series before, in the Netflix series, that Matt, his senses let him know a lot of stuff that we don't know. Even if we were looking at somebody, we wouldn't know. He knows what stuff they're carrying. He knows what they've eaten. He knows what kind of shoes they're wearing. He knows so much just from his senses, right? So he would know that there's one man coming to me with a needle. One man is coming into my room to kill me with a needle. But what does Daredevil do? Instead of trying to find out who the guy is, questioning the guy, stopping the guy, hurting the guy, he sneaks out and he has to run away. And it makes sense, right? He just got shot in the arm or the chest. So he's not 100%. He's not going to really be able to do this properly. So he sneaks out and he walks away. Then the power goes off. And so Daredevil, Matt, has to walk back to his apartment. So now picture this. You just got shot in the chest. You're in the hospital. You're in pain. Someone's coming to kill you. You know you can't do anything because you are incapacitated. So you sneak away and you walk from the hospital to your apartment. He didn't take the bus. He didn't take the train. He didn't take a cab because he didn't have no fucking money. So he walked. So you walk through all this pain. Your arm is throbbing. Your left side of your body's throbbing. You're bleeding. You're tired. You walk to your apartment. You walk up the stairs and get into your apartment. Now you're worse off than you were in the hospital, because in the hospital you were in pain, but you were on meds. You were laying down in a soft bed. You could drink and eat whenever you needed to. Now you just had to make this long walk. You're tired. You're sweaty. You're in even more pain than before. And then a trained police squad breaks into your apartment and you successfully fight them off. You couldn't fight off the guy with the needle because you were in such dire straits that one man with a needle, well, that's too much for me. But 6, 7, 8, 9 men with batons, guns, shields, armor, padding, fully rested, coordinated attackers. No, that's fine. This shit is these writers, man. Can't fight off one man because you're in so much pain. But then in the next scene, I'm fighting off a fucking crew of armed thugs easily. It wasn't like this was a drawn out fight. It wasn't like it in what was I gonna say, in the first season. I'm sorry, in the second season of the last series when he's fighting the hand and he's getting all fucked up. They kind of did it okay. They did an okay job of showing Matt's in pain and he's not able to do, really defend himself the way he normally would because he's all fucked up. They did it in the beginning of the third season where he had survived what happened to the Defenders, and so he's not 100%, but he's fighting these two men in the street, and it's not doing great, but he survives. It wasn't that. He was just Daredevil. They would just show him grimace every now and then because they're lazy and they wanted to remind you he's still in pain, but his actions didn't show that he was in pain. This guy was flipping, kicking, throwing, still had perfect aim, no issues. So why couldn't he fight off the first guy with the needle? What happened there? Jesus fucking Christ. Then the fight scene itself. Punisher is there, and Punisher's fight scene seemed like his sequences seemed lazy. It's like he just would grunt and do ugh, but it didn't have that brutal effect where it looked real. It looked like they were just being, using blood and guts and stuff to make it look really visceral, but it didn't have that visceral feel that it had in the other show where you didn't have to have blood splurting all over the place like fake blood. This looked worse. He looked slower. It just didn't look like a good fight scene. Daredevil's fight scene was even worse because they were using that cheap, lazy choreography where there's all these flashes and shit going on, so you can't really see what's happening. The first series you was very well choreographed. That's what helped make the series great. Is the show is about a crime fighter who knows martial arts, and you're able to see him do the martial arts, and it's cool and it's kick ass. Here you don't get that many fight scenes, and then when you finally get one with Daredevil actually fighting a bunch of people at the very end of the damn season, it's like all these flash shots where you can't really see, the lights kind of fucking blinding you, so you're not really seeing it. And it was that cheap, lazy choreography that you see in a lot of movies.
Frank, stop!
So the fight scene wasn't even good. Karen Page called Frank Castle to come and get Daredevil. I mean, I guess she could have his number, but that just felt weird. This guy just has a cell phone that, that he just carries around. I mean, it's been, a long time. It's been like a year or so that he hasn't talked to this lady. This guy's always on the run. I guess she could have called him, but it just felt weird that, like, she just called a friend, a coworker she used to work with, and he has the same cell phone and the same contacts. This guy doesn't go through different burner phones. Is this just his one iPhone that he keeps just so he can speak to specific people? I don't know. Again, when the show is bad, little things that normally wouldn't be important, they kind of stick out more. Because in the last series, if something like that happened, I wouldn't have even noticed it. Kingpin. Kingpin enacts this plan to turn the power off for the city. This guy has like one Con Ed guy that he has a meeting with, and then the Con Ed guy can just turn off the power to the city. There's no other checks and balances at Con Ed. It's just one man can go in and what he pressed a button and all the power went off, and nobody said, "Dude, what the fuck you doing?" Nobody went to the cops and said, this the one of the guys that works here, one of the head guys, he turned the power off. We could turn it back on if you want." Nobody checked to see that it wasn't an attack. Are you saying Kingpin bribed every employee in Con Ed? Or he knew the exact ones he needed to bribe? He just talked to one man. I couldn't believe that shit. He talked to one guy and then It would be more believable if he talked to the guy and then several days later, there was a plan to shut it down. No, he talked to one guy that night, and in the same night, the power went off. And it stayed off. That's not how it works. You don't just talk to one employee and they're able to shut every single thing down immediately and then keep it down, and nobody comes in and says, hey, let's check to see why the power went down. No, they were just like, oh, the power's off, and the mayor said there was an attack. I guess we should just do nothing. Shit is so stupid. Just nonsensical writing. You have the police commissioner is just doing dumb shit nobody would do. This guy knows that Kingpin is a criminal. He knows what he's capable of. He's the one confronting Kingpin over his criminal activities, his criminal past, and keeping an eye on him because he knows that this guy is a criminal. Yet this police commissioner is walking around not paying attention, talking to Rant to people that he shouldn't be revealing stuff to, and then just going about his business, getting in his car and take me home. It's like the writing is so lazy. It makes all the characters become imbeciles. In the original series, most, if not all of the characters were smart and competent enough. And they were smart enough to write scenes where the character gets into trouble, but it's not just some stupid, nonsensical, hey, I'm just going to walk into a den of lions. Oh no, I'm getting attacked. I didn't realize this was going to happen. So the police commissioner is dumb. The police commissioner walks into he's a police commissioner. He don't have a gun. When the guy, he was sitting in the car with the police officer, knew that he worked for Kingpin. I'm sure he could tell that the guy's driving him somewhere other than his home. The police commissioner doesn't carry a gun. He didn't even try to fight back to get out of the car. He just sat in the back waiting to get to this place to be killed. Oh my God. Shit is the stupidest. Then he walks into this place where there's plastic on the wall. He's again just walking in casually. I'm gonna get murdered, so either he's just walking in casually because he's retarded, or he resigned himself to his fate. I don't know what happened. It just didn't make any sense. So then the Kingpin does what is gonna happen, and it kills him. But then the way he kills him, again, it's the laziness. Kingpin's brutality is one of the things that makes the character so unique, especially in the Netflix series, because he has this reserved way about him. He eats properly, he eats the right foods, he prepares his food, he listens to classical music, he picks out art. He's this reserved man. But when brutality is needed, it's there, and you can see that he is a monster. And that helped. In this, it seemed like they took that from Netflix and they knew that's what people liked from the Netflix character. So they said, well, let's do it here, but they didn't do it properly. They were lazy, so they just wrote it in that he crushes somebody's skull. The way he did it, everything about that scene felt like a lazy, pathetic copy of something greater. Kingpin's brutality, it comes out when certain things happen. So if somebody he knows, there's a villain that he knows, or not a villain, there is an enemy of his that he knows is doing something to harm him, yeah, he may kill him, or he may have the person killed. Normally he'll have the person killed. He won't dirty his hands in that way. He doesn't need to. That brutality comes out when he is provoked, like when Ben Urich visited his mother behind his back, when the accountant revealed that he was the one that he was going to take the Kingpin down. When the Russian guy intervened or walked in, interrupted his dinner date with this woman that he loved and embarrassed him. Then that rage comes out and you understand, oh shoot, this guy's mad. Here, there's no reason to be that mad. You already know this guy, what this guy's plans are. You know he's a threat to you, and you know that he's trying to get you. He would just have him killed. It wouldn't happen this way. It didn't make sense. It was like, well, we're going to make him look brutal just because we know that's what people want to see. And then the Kingpin just didn't. Vincent D'Onofrio is thinner now, which is, you can't help that. But he just doesn't have that look of that, I can crush your skull. It didn't, when he grabbed his head, it didn't, and started squeezing it, you kind of knew what he was going to do. But it didn't look like it's something he could do anymore. It just didn't look right. So the whole thing is off. Then he doesn't crush his head. He likes rips his jaw off, and then what? He rip a flap of his skin away from his skull? What happened there? Every everything about that scene, that one scene, kind of explained this whole series. Pathetic, lazy writing where they're trying to just lazily copy. I mean, you could copy something from another series and do a competent job, and it's a copy, and you don't get as much credit because you're taking something that someone else made that's great, but you can still do a competent job at it and make a great show that's really just a copy of that initial format. But this was just like a lazy, we know the stuff that people like, so we're going to take bits and pieces of it. We're not going to really flesh it out or explain it or let people understand what's going on. We're just going to write it together in some scene real quick to make hopefully people will remember the last series and they'll see what we did lazily and they'll like it and they'll be dumb enough to love it. So it was that lazy, pathetic copying attempt. It was like this, looking at Kingpin now and how frail he looks. It was like this. It's like a watered down version of what was before. The effects are like cheap and lazily done. Either it's ugly CGI or it's just not even done properly. Everything about that scene kind of explained what this series was. And then of course, Punisher at the end. I don't even know what happened. He went into this. Punisher doesn't just walk into things blindly. Did he walk in to get captured? Is that what happened? Maybe that's what happened. And I'm just not paying attention. Maybe he walked in to purposely get captured so he would be on the inside. If not, I don't know what happened. He just walked in and decided to take on a whole group of people. Then this guy's getting shot. I know he's supposed to have on armor, but he's getting shot close range with shotguns. Armor doesn't protect you that well from that. And he didn't have on a bodysuit. While his arms were exposed, his legs, shotgun spread. These guys are like shooting him in the chest and in the back with shotguns and rifles at close range, and he's still fighting? Come on, dude. Lazy. It's just lazy. Daredevil would hear that Punisher is being attacked, and he doesn't try to do nothing. Maybe he did, and that's the scene where Karen told him not to. Then at the end, he gives this speech, which again just harks back to the rest of the series. This guy is. They're playing like pop music. This fucker's giving a speech to Radiohead. It's like, what the fuck is going? What happened, dude? Disney really is. They are like a fucking waste. They're like a joke. Everything they touch, they break. Everything they touch, they destroy. I mean, and I mean things that should be unbreakable. I mean, Star Wars has this decades long, almost half of a century long history of greatness. And I mean, the prequels were garbage, but the original ones, they stood the test of time for so long. You have great stories and comic books, great video games based on these characters, and these people have all done good jobs following that format. Disney comes along with the sequels and the TV series and just fuck it up and destroy it. It's like they're like fucking Rumpelstiltskin, except they turn gold into straw. It's like, dude, here's a gold bar. Go make some money with it. And these people spray paint it. They spray paint it hot pink and maybe some tranny colors. And then they sprinkle some glitter on it and write girl power. It's like, dude, it's a block of gold they gave you. Go make some money off of that. And they just destroy it. Yeah. Fucking Marvel has this really great run. They have some decent stories. Some decent movies, some, okay movies, some dumb movies. And then they have some really great movies, like a handful of really great films that they made. And it all, when you put it all together, you have this great thing that you can just build upon. These fuckers come in and give us the Eternals, the Black Widow movie, Shang-Chi, Return to Wakanda, whatever that shit was called, just like complete garbage. They fuck up Moon Knight. How do you fuck up a Moon Knight television show? I can't believe they just come in and fuck things up. Disney classics that have been around for almost a century. These fuckers come in and fuck it up. They hire a average looking girl at best to play Snow White, who's supposed to be this unparalleled beauty. But the fucking queen in Snow White looks better than the fucking Snow White in the live action movie. She actually, and when I watched the trailers, I'm like, why does the queen feel jealous of Snow White? The queen's hot, and Snow White is average at best. So it's not even following the original story. Disney just cut everything that it has touched within the past decade, or more than a decade now. They have just destroyed. They've destroyed fucking Indiana Jones. Everything they touch, they break. Everything that they touch, they break. And they've done that now with this Daredevil thing. Daredevil, if you were to remove, let's do this. If you were to remove its attachment to the first series, to the Netflix series, if you remove this series from the other series, let's say that other series didn't exist, you never saw any Daredevil television show, and this was your first time seeing it, then this show is a decent show. It's a decent, pretty good show. Again, you have some nonsensical writing, some stupid writing, but you have some good writing. Like episode 3, I think, the court case. That was a very good episode. A very good episode. The actors all do as good as they can. They all do good jobs. The sets are good. You know, they're just filming in fucking apartments and stuff. But if I were to watch this not seeing the other thing, I probably would have said, oh, this was pretty good. You know, some stuff that was dumb and didn't make sense. But other than that, you know, they did a pretty good job with Daredevil. You know, he knows martial arts. He's a lawyer. They kind of do a good job showing his abilities and senses. But then again, they fuck that up because then they write things improperly to throw off what they wrote before. But either way, I would have saw it and said, I would probably say this was pretty good. If I never knew that other show. This is pretty good. That doesn't mean that Disney gets any credit, because the only reason the show is pretty good is because they had an excellent platform to copy from. That's the only reason. They had such an excellent platform to copy from. I was like, okay, well, you can do a decent enough job if you try to take a little bit of something from that. That's how good the first series was. So if you never saw anything about Daredevil, and this is your first time, this is probably a decent show to you. But there are other Daredevil things. This is attached to something greater. So when you compare this to that, this was garbage. This was trash. You don't get to see enough Daredevil. The first series, even when he wasn't Daredevil, when he was just a vigilante, you got so many different action sequences, and they were very well done. Very well done. Some of the best I've ever seen. And I'll say the best I've ever seen in a television show. Great action sequences. You get to see this character because that's why you came to watch it. It's like I come to watch a baking show and they show people sweeping the floor, and every once in a while they show someone take something out of the oven. I'm going to complain. It's the same thing here. I came to see Daredevil fight people. And you get to see in the first episode there's some fighting, and then I think the next time he fights he fights 2 cops as Matt Murdock, and then there's the irrelevant bake sequence, and then there is what else? He fights Muse twice, and then the last episode he does some fighting. So you have him fight as Daredevil 3 times in a 9-episode thing. So you get to see him fight. I mean, well, that's 4 times, let's say, because you have him in the first episode. You don't get to see enough of Daredevil being Daredevil. You've removed characters that are important to this guy. Karen doesn't really show up again as Karen, to help him or be a friend to him until the last episode. Foggy's dead. His mother, this guy don't even fucking talk about. I mean, he mentions her once. He doesn't even mention her. He kind of mentions that he has a mother, but he doesn't go visit his fucking mom. She's still alive. Why would he not visit his mother? It doesn't make any sense. Characters have been removed and replaced with like shit characters. The psychiatrist girl, that just didn't even feel organic. The Ben Urich's niece or whatever, that actually was annoying. Soprano Jr., I don't know who that character was, or I don't know. It felt gimmicky, that character. I guess you could need the character. I don't know. It just didn't feel the same. You had Wesley in the first series. That made sense. Wesley was working with this guy for a while. This new guy, it's just like he's too eager, and you don't know why. It's like, why does he want to be under Kingpin, under Wilson Fisk so badly? It didn't feel, again, it didn't feel organic. I guess maybe because they rushed it and you didn't know these characters, maybe you didn't care about them. I don't know, but that character I just didn't like. It kind of didn't make sense in the overall arc. This guy went from being like a staffer for a politician to overnight being like a mob boss. It's like, well, okay. This guy was a staffer for a politician. He hung out with some girls, like he was like a Gen Zer kid. And in the next scene, he's like a criminal mob boss. The way he's acting and handling, he's threatening his friend, who seems like is supposed to be his good friend. He's just engaging in certain actions. It just didn't seem like they gave him enough time to get to that point. It's just the next day he was just, you know what? I want to do things that are kind of border criminality. I want to kind of be a criminal. Hit Kingpin's new side man, the British guy. I didn't like or dislike that character. He just was a character. Matt Murdock's new life, I didn't like or appreciate that because you had established this guy. I mean, Foggy and Karen are kind of what grounded Matt and kind of kept him down to earth, kept him anchored to reality and from going off into this devil persona. And that you just removed them, but he didn't. And then it looks like he didn't need him at all because he just apparently. It looks like when they removed Foggy and Karen, this guy's life got better. He got a better apartment. He worked in a bigger practice. He seemed kind of happier, I guess. It feels like this show they tried to erase the other show while also trying to leech off of it, and it just, you could feel that throughout the show. The writing had significant problems. The tone of the show was just horrible. The goddamn pop songs that would pop in, it just destroyed the tone of the show. The BB scenes where she's just like interviewing, it's like, dude, there's a fucking riot in the streets and this girl's doing aerial, the fuck do you call those things that fly aerial drone shots and shooting it's just like you kind of remove the urgency at that point. Is this girl just a regular freelance journalist that's filming people, or does she have like a big production team? You didn't really explain that part. She's out in the middle of a riot and nothing's happening to her. Her random interview scenes were kind of annoying and were irrelevant. It's like they were trying to give us the tone of the city, but that didn't work because I don't give a shit about what the other citizens think. That's not important to me. We're here to see the Daredevil characters. I don't want to see random characters who are irrelevant giving their piece on what they think, especially when it doesn't tie into the story in any way. Didn't tie into the story. You have other heroes that they introduced that get killed off immediately. Jesus Christ. So this is once again Disney just fucking something up, taking something that should have been great and just destroying it and fucking it up like they do. So I didn't like this series. I don't know if I'll even watch the next season. I don't know at this point because I feel like I'm just going to be disappointed more. Something tells me there's gonna be like created female superheroes to try to erase the male superheroes. Maybe they'll give Karen Page a costume and she'll become a superhero and she'll get more screen time than Matt. I don't know, but the White Tiger character I think is going to be replaced by his niece, so it'll be a female White Tiger. Probably focus more on the BB Chronicles stuff. That's just the Kingpin and Daredevil dynamic has kind of been thrown off. You know, one saving grace about this whole thing is the first series on Netflix. It had a great ending. We wanted it to continue. You expected it to continue, but when it didn't, you were upset. But at least it had a great ending, so you don't have to even factor in this bullshit season into those other 3 seasons, because you had the beginning where Matt turns into Daredevil and Wilson Fisk turns into Kingpin. That was the first episode. Second episode kind of goes into Matt fully taking on that Daredevil role, fighting the Hand. The third episode kind of finds him struggling to find his real identity, but he realizes what he needs to do, and at the end of that episode he finally defeats Kingpin in a very satisfying duel between him, Kingpin, and Bullseye. Kingpin finally goes to jail, and Daredevil, Matt and Foggy and Karen, they form this little practice, and it's a great ending. And that series, even though it didn't continue, you still got a good beginning, a great middle, and an unbelievable ending. So if you really care about the Daredevil series, just watch the original series, and then every few years or so, just pop them. I bought the DVDs before. Actually, I don't have season 3 on DVD. I couldn't find it on Blu-ray. Whatever. I'm old. But try to find the Blu-rays of those and just watch them every few years, and then you'll get your Daredevil fix. Don't waste your time with this unless they try to redeem themselves. I don't see how they're going to do that. Charlie Cox is getting older. He's not going to be able to do certain things anymore. Vincent D'Onofrio is not going to put on more weight just for a television show. I hope he doesn't. He's at a healthy weight now. Hopefully he stays there. So his Kingpin character is never going to look or feel the same. So don't worry about this show. Don't watch it. Don't waste your time. Just watch the original and tell me what you think.